Hey, how's it guys? In this video, we're going to learn how to create wrist bar animation using Matplotlib in Python. Now, before I dive into the tutorial, let me just give you a quick demo before we start the tutorial. Alright, so here let me go ahead and run the script. And it's going to launch this bar graph. So basically, I'm creating an animation to display the transition from the beginning of the year to wherever the loss is going to be based on this data set, and to create an animation to display the gradually change. Alright, so let me do it again. So I sent that was too fast. Alright, so let me go ahead and launch the graph. Alright, so start from 1966 all the way to, let's see, all the way to 2018. So based on this data set that I got. Now inside the wrist bar chart, I'm going to change the bar color to the top 3 bars or the top 3 countries based on the ranking sequence order, being number 1 is going to have the orange color, and number 2 is going to have a slightly diluted orange color, and number 3 is going to be a yellow color bar, and the rest is going to color in blue. Alright, so before diving into the tutorial, you can grab the dataset from the link in the description below. So you can go ahead and grab the URL and paste that onto your Python file. Alright, so here I'm going to create a variable called data URL. And I'll paste the URL to the CSV file. Now let's quickly look at this data set right here. So from this data set, we have 4 columns: country name, country code, population year, and population value. Alright, so from the import statement, let me insert the code snippet. I'm going to import pandas module to expedite the data transformation operation. And from matplotlib.pyplot, I'm going to name the library as PLT. And to modify the X and Y axis tickers, I'll be using the matplotlib.ticker module. And finally, to create the animation from matplotlib.animation, we'll be importing the funcAnimation class. Alright, so let me make the font a little bit bigger. Alright, so first, let's load the dataset using pandas module. And because the data source is a CSV file, I'm going to pass the data URL. And from the dataset, I'll be only using country name, population year, and the population number, which is going to be country name, year, and value counts. Now, when we import the dataset, let me print the df module. Alright, so if we print the data frame object, so this is going to be the table that we get. Now, to present the population information in each year, I want to pivot the table with country name be the index, and each year is going to be their own individual counts. And the way how we can do that is we can use the pivot function. Alright, so here I can say from the data frame object, I can insert the pivot function, and I want to specify the index, which is going to be country name. The column is going to be year, and values is going to be value count. And I'll name the output as df pivot. Now if I print the df pivot object, alright, so I'm getting this should be columns. Now if we look at the data set from this df pivot object, we now have the index, which is going to represent each country, and the population year, which is going to be distributed across multiple columns, and followed by the population data points. Now when we create the animation, each year is going to represent a single frame. Now we can go ahead and create the graph. Now here I'm going to insert plot.subplots, which is going to create the matplotlib figure and the axis. Now for the figure size, I'm going to set this to 10 by 6. And I'll save the outputs figure and the x object. So this method is going to return 2 items. Now if I insert plot.show, which is going to display the graph. Right, so it's going to display the empty graph. Now, to create animation using Matplotlib, we first need to create a func animation object. Alright, so here I'm going to say func animation. Then we'll provide the Matplotlib figure, followed by the function that is going to construct the graph, and which we do not have right now, which I'll create that in a second. So I'm going to insert pass. Actually, let's do pass in a string, and I'll come back to this later. Now, to generate each frame, we need to pass the range to the frames parameter. Alright, so for the range, it's going to be each year. Now here I'm going to create a list, and I'll name the list years. Now to get the list of years from the df pivot object, we know the year range is going to be the counts. So from df pivot.counts, and this is going to return the years in a list. So if I print years, it's going to return as a int64 index list. Alright, so we can pass the years object to the frames parameter. Now there are two other parameters I would like to include, and these two are optionals. The first one is going to be repeat, and I'll set the value to 2, meaning that I want to keep repeating the animation. And the other parameter is going to be the interval, and it's going to be the duration between each frame. And I'll set this to 100, and the unit is going to be in milliseconds. So 1000 is going to be 1 second, and 100 is going to be 1 second. Alright, so the only thing that we're missing is the function that we're going to pass to the func animation class to construct the chart. Alright, so going back to the top, I'm going to name the function update animation. And this function is going to take the year value as the parameter. Now for the charts, I only want to display the top 10 population countries. Now from the df pivot object, I want to display the values given the year argument. Then I'll sort the column by the values. Now to sort from the highest value to the lowest value, we need to set the ascending parameter to false. And to return just the top 10 values, we can use the head function, and it's going to be the first 10 records. Now in Matplotlib, every time when we update the data points or the chart, we need to clear the X first, and it's going to be the objects embedded in a Matplotlib chart. Alright, so here I need to run the x.clear method to clear all the axis object and to reinitiate the chart creation. And because we want to make our chart look a little bit fancy, for the top 3 values, we're going to assign those 3 bars with different colors. So for the bar colors, I'm going to first of all create a list called colors. And it's going to be the color hex values that I'm going to assign to the top 3 bars. So this one's going to be the orange color, and this one's going to be the diluted orange color, and this one's going to be the yellow bar. Alright, so at this point we can provide the update animation function to the func animation class. Alright, so let me go ahead and run the script first. Oh, so I forgot to display the chart. Alright, so we need to first of all finish the update animation function first, because there's nothing to be rendered inside this update animation function. Now to insert the bar graphs, I'm going to display the top 3 bars and the remaining bars in 2 different steps. Alright, so first I'm going to insert the x.bar h function. And I forgot to name this output as, let's do top 10 bars. Now we know this top 10 bars object is going to contain 10 items. Now to display the top 3 items, I can slice the top 10 bars object. And the first parameter should be the index. So here I'm going to reference the index. Then I'll slice the first 3 values. followed by the data points. Now here we can use the color parameter to specify the colors that I want to assign to the bars. And because this output only returns 3 items, and from our colors list, we only have 3 colors as well, so I can simply pass the colors object to the color parameter. Now for the bar height, I'm going to set that to, let's do 0.7. Now here I'm going to simply copy this statement, and I'll make a copy. And this one's going to be the remaining bars. So it's going to be from the 4th item all the way to the end. And this one too. Now for the bar color, I'm simply going to choose a random color. And let's use this one right here. Now let's look at what we have so far. Right, so it's still giving me the animation was deleted. And I think I know why, because I forgot to save the output. Alright, so here I'm going to name the output as animation. Let me try again. Alright, so this time we have the animation, and it's going to be the initial animation that we have so far. Now, there are a couple of things that I want to add to the animation to make the whole user experience a lot more friendly. Alright, so going back to the update animation function, and this is where we construct the chart. Alright, so first I want to assign a title. So I'm going to insert the set title method from the X object. Now for the chart title, I'll name this as top 10 countries by population in, and it's going to be the year. And let me take a look again of the animation. Alright, so here I want to inverse the y-axis. I also want to relabel the x-axis. Alright, so let's see. Alright, so here we can inverse the y-axis label by using the invert y-axis method. Now to relabel the x-axis labels. Alright, so here I'm going to grab the maximum value from the top 10 bars object. Then I want to increase the upper range by 100,000. Actually, 100 million, not 100,000. And how you want to handle upper limit is really based on your data set that you're using. And for this data set, because I know the population is going to be, the number is going to be huge, so that's why I'm simply going to increase the upper limit by 100 million. Then from the X object, I can set the X-axis range using the set xlim method. And I'll set the range between, here, this is going to be max. Actually, let's name this as upper limit X-axis. So the X-axis range is going to be between 0 and the upper limit X-axis. And for the axis label title, I'll set this to population in millions. Right, so let me take a look. Alright, so because I simply don't want to display just a number, I'll format the label using, let's do M stands for a million and K for 1,000. And because some countries' population is a lot more than the other countries, such as China, comparing to other European countries like Finland or Spain. Alright, so here I'm going to insert if statement, and I want to say if upper limit x-axis is greater than 1 million. Then I want to format the x-axis using the x.x-axis.set major formatter. Now from the takers library, there's a class called func formatter. Now here I'm going to insert a lambda function. And I'm naming the parameter as v. So basically, this function here is going to pass each taker's value. So I forgot to mention that this set major formatter function is going to pass two values based on each taker. It's going to pass the taker's value and the taker's index position. So the first argument is going to be the x-axis value, and the second argument is going to be the position index. All right, so I'll name this as position. So we have value and position. Now from the population value, I want to divide the value by 1,000,000. In our format string, let's do 0 decimal place. So it's going to be period, 0 and F. And for the indicator, it's going to be letter M. Otherwise, we can assume that the number is going to be less than 1,000,000. So I'll copy this statement here, and I'll copy and paste. And here for the divider, I'll divide this by 1,000. And it's going to be, let's do 1 decimal place. And the indicator will be letter K. Alright, so I think that's going to be everything that we need to write. Now let me save the script and run it. Alright, so so far everything looks so good. And this one thing I want to adjust, which is going to be, if you see the y-axis labels, so some of the text got cut off. Alright, so what we can do is we can shift the chart object from the left to the right just a little bit. And we can use the here, so from the figure.subplots adjust method, we can shift the left value, and let's do 0.2. Now let's see what happens. Right, so 0.2 is not enough. Let's do 0.25. Right, so 0.25 looks pretty good. Now everything looks good so far. The last thing I want to add is to save the animation as an MP4 file. Right, so going back to the import statement, from Matplotlib.animation, I'm going to import one more class. And it's going to be FM impact writers class. And this should be lowercase. Now, if you've never used FM impact, so basically it's an open source software which allows you to basically manipulate media files file. Alright, so if you don't have the software installed, you can go to fmimpact.org and basically just download the software, then you're good to go. Now to save the animation as an MP4 file, alright, so here I'm going to create a fmimpact object. And this should be FM impact writer. And here we can also set the frame per second. And I'll set that to 10, meaning that we're going to display 10 frames per second. And I'll name the output as writer. Now to save the animation as an MP4 file, so let me move this to the top. And I'll come out the func animation object creation. Alright, so here we need to insert the wait statement with writer.saving. And we insert the Matplotlib figure. And it's going to be the file name. And I'm naming the file bar chart race.mp4. And for the DPI, I'll set that to, let's do 300. Now inside the wait statement, we just need to iterate each year. So I can say for year in years. And I'll construct the chart using the update animation function. And I'll pass the year. And once the chart is created, we can reference the writer object that grab frame. to grab the image to save that as a frame. And because we don't need to show the graph, we can close the graph using the plt.close method, and we'll pass the figure object, and we're done. Now to test the script, so here I'm going to move the project folder here. Right, so if I run the Python script, right, so this should be FPS. Right, so I guess okay, so we have the MP4 file created. Now if I open the MP4 file, and we now have the animation in a media file format. So this is going to be everything I'm going to share in this video, and hopefully you guys find this video useful. And if you enjoyed this video, please don't forget to give this video a like and click on the subscribe button, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye bye.